young. Her sister probably would have been better actually, but then her sister turned Charles down. It was kind of, she was being treated a bit like she was at boarding school.
I want you to tell me how you met what became Princess Diana. Was she already a princess at the time?
She already was a princess, and she actually, I think she was just about married to Charles at the time.
Right.
And she was going to see Arabella Pollum, the fashion designer, who happened to rent space in the same block as I rented space, 6 to 8, Avonmore Trading Estate, which now is Kensington Village.
Right.
So
okay.
She was in the stairwell and on the ground floor, and she wanted to go up in the lift, and the lift was not working.
And was she with like security?
No, she was not. No.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, right.
And so I said to her, I'm very sorry. I said, the staircase is all broken at the edges. And I said, there's all sorts of bottles and things all up the stairs. And she said, no matter. She just didn't, And I said, just go to the 4th floor on the right-hand side, and that's Arabella Pollum. So off she went.
And what I mean, was she kind of pretty down to earth when you spoke to her? Or was,
oh,
what was
yes,
she like?
very, very much so.
Right.
Yes, there was no sort of like airs and graces or, a bit like her son William is, very sort of straightforward.
Right, okay.
And, she came down the stairs after about an hour. And I was just sorting out things in our studio we had on the other side before packing up, locking up. And then the next time I saw her was at Claridge's.
Okay.
Because we were doing a party there for a lady, and her husband was one of these something to business, to do with the government.
Right.
And they had a big party there. And she turned up to see the daughter of this lady. And she saw me, and she came straight over. And then that was that. And then there was another occasion I was just driving past the design centre, and she was going in one direction in the Red Escort, and I was going in the other direction, and it was a warm evening. She was wearing one of the evening dresses that was actually auctioned off.
Oh, wow.
And she had nobody in the car with her, and we just sort of, like this, waved and whatever.
Wow.
I was working in Windsor at the time, and I used to take my lunch breaks, and sometimes I would go to Runnymede, and I'd go up to the Folly there. So this particular...
Sorry, what's the Folly? Tell me what the Folly is.
The Folly is a historical sort of site, a little structure, sort of built probably Edwardian times, maybe before.
Yeah.
It's just a place, of architectural interest that's on a hill. Mm-hmm. So I went up there, and as I got up there she was. And she was sitting there by herself.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
And we sat and talked.
And what sort of conversations were you having? Was it sort of very surface-wise or deep ones?
No, it wasn't surface, no. She was actually already talking about she wasn't happy in her marriage.
Really? Mm. Wow. Do you remember some of the things she may have said?
She just said she just felt lonely. She felt lonely. She gave me her telephone number.
Right.
She took my telephone number. And after that meeting, I took a long thinking really about what should I do, and I just felt it was wrong to involve myself any further with her.
Really?
So that's what happened. I mean, I did see her on another occasion, and she just sort of flattered her eyelids at me. And that again was at one of the London hotels. But she didn't approach me because I hadn't approached her.
Right.
And but that when we were sitting there on the Folly together, she didn't quite know what to do. What next, sort of thing. She was sort of asking me how I felt about my relationship.
Really?
Yeah, and saying, what do you think I should expect, and this sort of thing. And I was just saying, well, you really do need to spend more personal time together.
So you think they weren't spending much time on it?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. And I did actually get the gist, which has been reiterated now, that, the courtiers kind of the royal palace, she wanted to be closer to them, to understand them. And it was she was being treated a bit like, she was at boarding school, and she got to sort of behave herself, and that's what I felt was wrong. And also, as I say, she was lonely, and she didn't really get to see many of her friends anymore. The friends I think she did have a flat at one point in Russell Square, and she wasn't sort of meeting with them, and she didn't really feel she was in the right place.
So she felt a bit isolated.
I think she did, yeah.
Right.
And I was being really frank with her. I wasn't sort of saying I was trying to just treat her like I would treat anybody else.
That's good. You could have a frank discussion with her and stuff.
I felt very, very guilty when she died. We'd done a gig with my second husband, so it was years on later, and I felt if I'd actually gone and met with her, and had more sort of contact with her, would she have, gone out with the Fayeds? Would she have been involved? I did feel bad because it was like she wasn't listening to me, and because that happened and she died in the way she did, I felt I'd let her down. That just sounds a bit silly.
No, I guess people do feel guilt when friends or relatives die. Sort of have some guilt sometimes. Yeah. Do you see much in common between her and, say, Kate Middleton? Do you think they're similar characters or not?
I think yes. I think there's a lot of definitely similar behaviours there.
Right.
And I do think Kate has been very good for William. But I feel they're really in a difficult situation, William and Kate, with sort of the modern royal position, because I think they have different expectations of their lives, as a lot of young people do today, that they don't want to be in this sort of archaic place. They've got their own ideas and they want to follow them through. And I think we'll see a big change in the way the royal family is once the king has died.
Right.
And I have been concerned about the king, which cancer he's got, because to me I would think it probably is bowel cancer. That would be my viewpoint.
Right. Do you think people have sort of grown accustomed to, or they've accepted Queen Camilla now that of all the years that have passed?
I think she's fulfilling a position in the system. I think a lot of people don't agree, obviously, the way she came about being the Queen, but I do also feel that the King's mother, the Queen, made some mistakes by not allowing him to be with the woman he wanted to be with in the beginning.
Right.
And kind of Diana really was rather young, and didn't have the same kind of background as Charles did, and she wasn't a big lover of horses, or her sister probably would have been better actually, but then her sister turned Charles down because she was the first choice. the older sister.
Right.
No, I do feel desperately sad, I think, of the way things have gone for the royal family over since before Philip died. I don't agree with the relationship that Prince Charles had with his uncle, which I know quite a lot about through Hardy Amis, because I knew the fashion designer Hardy Amis,
Mm-hmm.
who told me quite a few things, and I think, you know, maybe that will come to light, what happened. But I
What you're talking about, Charles and his uncle, what, Mountbatten?
Mountbatten, yes. Mountbatten wanted, I think, to get Charles to be more grown up in some ways, and he instigated quite a few different things, and totally inappropriately.
Right.
And the Queen's husband, you know, Philip, he had very different thoughts on the Queen, but the Queen did stick to all the rules. You know, she allowed him to do so many things, Philip, in their relationship. So
things that would be considered unusual in most relationships, or things.
Oh yes, definitely. But then royal behaviour has never been normal.
Right.
By our normal behaviours.
Yeah.
So.
So what do you think the future of the royal family is?
Well, I think it probably would go more like the Spanish king. I think it will be a bit more relaxed, and well, like other royal members, you know, in Sweden, and I think it will become more sort of set back, really.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it'd be better for modern Britain.
Right.
But the pageantry, I think, is important, and other countries do have pageantry, you know, and
yeah.
I think it does sort of show where we all came from, you know, and it's good for tourism. Very good.
Yeah, yeah. No, thanks for sharing your thoughts on Diana and the family, the royal family. Much appreciated. It's good to get that valuable insight from you.
Yeah, I won't go ever go any closer to it. I am going to be writing a book.
You are fantastic.
But the book I'm writing, I'm looking for a ghostwriter at the moment.
Okay.
I'm actually wanting to write a book which includes my best friend who actually died during COVID of leukemia. Suddenly she got leukemia, but her husband was the private pilot for the Syrian leader.
Oh right, okay. So for Assad.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
It is interesting, yes, because she had to run really from Syria, and her husband was put in prison for a while.
Really?
And subsequently, since all the trouble out in Syria, her brother-in-law was hung in her back garden.
Oh my God, that's
so
a horrific story.
Quite a story there, and I think our combined lives in the late 70s to 90s would make a very good film as much as a book.
Yeah, no, you've certainly had a life, and I appreciate you sharing some of it with us. Thank you.